though, they have executed that comp extremely well. Gauntlet, afterburn into a Gauntlet stun, beautiful combos there. So as long as they do combinations that make sense, then I would like to see them execute them.
We'll see how coherent they will be able to be during this series. Dynasty on the A side to start things off with SK on the B side, and the Vox ban will be the first lock-in of the draft.
Yeah, which means SK will most likely ban away the Grace, I feel, or Baron if they don't want to give a team Baron, and that'll give Dynasty Grace. And I think that, they actually take away Lyra instead, so that opens Baron and Grace for the side of Dynasty. So is Dynasty going to pick up the Grace here, which I think they will. I haven't seen them really first pick a Baron. They normally first pick a Captain always, like Arden, Grace, etc. So I feel like the Grace will be picked up here.
We have seen SK Gaming like to lean towards the Baron, though. That's certainly something they're not uncomfortable going with. So you also have to bring up the question of, do you allow that through? The answer is apparently yes from Dynasty, but we've obviously seen Baron make it through the first picks in the past. Yeah,
and SK hasn't banned Lyra that often. Out of the past 6 games, they banned Lyra once. They mostly ban Baron, Grace, and BF are their top priority bans. So I think the next second ban here from SK will probably be one of those heroes. Blackfeather will probably be banned here since they picked picked Baron, so Idris or Blackfeather.
And Idris will be taken off the board now, Dynasty. Looking at what is still available, what is remaining, Batiste and Catherine both still on the board here, so there's potential for craziness if this ban doesn't go towards either of those.
I would expect the ban to go into the Catherine, take that captain off the board, force then the side of SK onto the Arden. Of course, they're going to be fine taking the Arden, but you don't want to let them have the Baron Catherine. Catherine can actually really disrupt a Grace and prevent her from being able to get those divine interventions out. So I would expect Catherine to be taken away here.
Yeah, Catherine or Batiste, but that leaves Catherine or Batiste open now. So Dynasty needs to pick. They're going to give Batiste over if they don't. Yeah, they're not going to play Cath here.
This is really smart because the chances of a Catherine coming through from Dynasty are slim
really
to
low.
none. So now this SK can get that comp.
This is K Volifar saying, hey, you see my my weapon power Grace? Do you dare take me on my own pick? We'll have to see. It seems unlikely, though, that they go with the weapon power Grace. Blackfeather will be locked in here. Obviously, that's good against Baron, but you know, if the Catherine is locked in for SK, that looks really
bad. It's a lot of CC.
Dynasty.
I mean, Blackfeather can outplay that and get around it because if he has a reflex and he has 2 Rose defenses for his out charges, that's 3 anti-CC measures that he has. But that'll leave him alone in the back line, and then that'll allow the entire team to then focus him. So they need something that can dive with him and support the Blackfeather here.
Yeah, and if you then factor in the Crucible as well, 4 anti-CCs, which is how many you need against a Catherine Batiste without reflex blocks.
Oh, yeah.
Or, sorry, without Echo coming out. So it's definitely going to be a difficult conversation. The Scarf I am not a fan of because, again, assuming Catherine comes through, that's so many forms of crowd control that can cancel out a Scarf ultimate.
Yeah, you have the Ordain, you have the Fearsome Shade, you have the Silence and Stun. A lot of things to cancel or prevent Scarf from channeling and getting that Dragon Breath off the ground. So I felt like they could have risked it and maybe even do Taka. And just Grace is a dive comp. You want heroes that can dive with her, and they excel when you have like 2 heroes that are mobile, can dive, and have really good gap closers here.
This shouldn't even...
Oh, they're not going to pick the Cath here. They're going to actually go with Skye. So they want Skye to specifically counter the Grace. It feels like Grace and Blackfeather, and to an extent Scarf. So it's more about a skill matchup here, but late game, SK actually could go either way. I think the drafts are pretty even.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting one. Obviously, teams recently starting to sway away from that Catherine Batiste.
For some reason.
I mean, it might be a matter of like results in scrims and it not performing on the level that it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
Let's bear in mind, bear in mind how fast the meta has been changing this season. It's not too surprising to imagine that a counter has been found and nobody wants to play into that, and maybe it's just not hit the screen just yet. Now, let's talk about the compositions quickly before we get on into this game. Obviously, Suijay, you mentioned this looks fairly even. There's a Skye and a Scarf on each of these teams. That would lend me to believe that this is probably going to the late game, Bacon.
Yeah, it definitely looks like a late game matchup between both sides. You have Baron, Scarf, the Skye, you know, Blackfeather. All 4 of them, sorry, can go very well into the late game. It's really going to come down to a lot of it is going to be the jungle and the captain play from each side.
One thing I want to mention real quick, Dynasty actually lost against Salty Potatoes. They're up 9-0 because Scarf had 4 items and no armor, and then Baron just focused the Scarf down. So they cannot make that mistake again this game.
All right, we'll see whether any mistakes come through from either of these teams. Let me remind you guys that SK last season were robbed of their bye by G2. They have an opportunity to lock that in if they can win a few more series. They're looking for first place at this rate if they can beat Fnatic, but it's time to jump into this one. Let's see whether Dynasty can fight their way up the ladder. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. Let's pass it once again to Humanist and Denominate.
Well, thank you very much one more time for Munchables coming over to Denominate and myself. And Denominate, we got a pretty fun matchup here. Dynasty versus SK. Both of these teams, we will be seeing them at the Unified Live Championship, but it's all about seeding now. Like, how far can Dynasty move up the ladder here?
Well, Dynasty obviously only a couple points behind. If they can shut out SK Gaming here, that'll keep SK at 27 points. And if Dynasty goes on to take the whole week, they could actually pass SK and get that 28 point. You know, right now Dynasty's sitting at 20. Winning the week would bring them to that 28 spot. So definitely a lot of opportunity for Dynasty here. But they'd have to really shut out SK, I think. Well, actually, they could drop a game and then take the head-to-head, so that wouldn't be too terrible for them. But I really like the SK draft here. Sky into the Grace and Blackfeather. Obviously, we'll very likely get a Frostburn first out of Tyra's here. That'll keep the Blackfeather back, keep the Grace back, and that's really the win condition here for the side of SK. Limit the movement that Dynasty have and get Cavalifar online to help kind of clean up once PT Lamb and Mowgli are taken low. They're obviously susceptible to a lot of splash damage, as both the gap closer from Mowgli and PT Lamb will likely be used to make that engagement possible. This game is going to be literally on Raph and Tyra's here, saving Cavalifar and then just allowing Cavalifar to do Cavalifar things. So we got a little bit of an engagement here going on, a little bit of a skirmish.
Yeah, I love the analysis, Denominate. I think you broke it down for us really good there. Right off the bat, though, as we had this reload into the Halcyon Fold, PT Lamb, Rikamez, Mowgli taking away the mids from SK. And doing so very aggressively. So that's going to secure the mid, also the Eldritch Treant for them as well. Unless Raph can steal this, he's going to attempt through the bad mode or not. PT Lamb zones him out. Nice plays by PT Lamb there.
Yeah, really good plays to try to keep Sky from getting online. We are still in 2.6, so she does have that damage even when not locked on. So that is really the potential of Tyra's here. He doesn't have to get locked on to force somebody back. And then obviously, again, that Frostburn will really prevent PT Lamb from making safe engagements. Raph did make an attempt to try to get to the backs and push a little bit of the jungle, maybe clean some up. It didn't look like he got any. And now that is going to be SK recalling, but Cavalifar has this lane shoved underneath the turret and trying to make it difficult for PT Lamb.
Yeah, he really shoved this lane forward. I mean, it is stacked up. PT Lamb has to respect the damage coming out of the minion wave there, and that gives this opportunity for Cavalifar just to port home. Easy peasy. Pick up some items. He's got his boots, another weapon blade. He's ready to go.
Yeah, definitely ready to go. Picking up that armor, making sure if Blackfeather does try to make an engage, he'll reduce as much of that damage as possible. Again, I really like the draft out of SK here, but I really want to point out Rikumeza specifically on this Scarf. Scarf has been a hero that's been in Europe so long, been really a reliable hero for them just forever, but let's hold off here. We got a little bit of a fight.
Mowgli! He was stunned up, taking a bit of damage there. Tyrus clearly wanted to take the back, but it went over to Rikameza. So an opportunity to find a kill is actually not going to be cleaned up.
It's not. And just touching back onto the Scarf here, this is something that Rikumeza plays very, very well. If he's able to outpoke Raph here, obviously Raph being the captain is going to be the front line, though, as we have a double ranged composition. We could really force a fountain out of Raph early. Now, there's also a lot of opportunity if Scarf takes the right angles, could get some good Spitfires and some goop damage down onto Tyra's or to Cavalifar. But I think it's just as important if he builds up some Broken Myth stacks and pokes out Raph. Oh, hold on here.
Raph, they're trying to fight over the Elder Tree, and PT Lamb drops down. Raph dropping low. He's going to use his potion and his boots, trying to get backwards. PT Lamb is on target. Tyrus over the top of the Surrey Strike. Raph still alive. Mowgli wants him. He doesn't have the cooldown. And that's Raph getting out of there. Ladies and gentlemen, Raph.
Raph and Tyra's both make it out. There's no farm in the backs here for Dynasty to steal away, so now Mowgli is going to be in a position where he has to recall. I'm actually shocked he's not rotating back with Rikumeza to get that just as much ambient gold as he can. No Elder Treant alive for Rikumeza. But, you know, overall, some pretty good trades as far as farms so far for Dynasty. They don't find that first blood one basic attack away. But that is going to that's going to result in a little bit of a gold advantage for the side of Dynasty just because of their rotations that they've made, the good ambient sharing.
Yeah, very nice rotations thus far. PT Lamb, he's been doing a good job. He's getting his last hits in the lane. 38, 40 last hits, 4 minutes in to the 30 of Kvalifar. Kvalifar back to base one more time. Just building into Imagine What We Saw, or Blade Tension Bow. We've seen this time and time again. Raph and Tyrus making their way up in the lane. Ordained is down onto PT Lamb. Tyrus gets this target lock, trying to dance around. PT Lamb trying to avoid what would be an easy forward barrage, but they set him up. And it's a first blood coming through for Tyrus, the monster of Split 2, Week 2. Let's see if he can do it again.
Yeah, and actually what was really nice there was PT Lamb actually turned back after that engagement. I think he had some potential to make it out there. It would have been kind of iffy. But he turns back into the Surrey Strike, and all of those missiles come crashing down on him. We've seen him drop from that 50% health line to nothing in just a split second. PT Lamb has actually opted to go the Poison Shiv first to help him get that sustain, but that's really going to limit some of the damage that he has. And we know we have to have Burst onto Kvalifar or Tyra's to bring them down. So definitely going to be iffy, but here we go.
Aggressive plays onto Kvalifar. Mowgli in there. He doesn't have Benediction that was on cooldown. He had just used it. He did his little Benediction Holy Nova combo. They get some damage out onto Kvalifar and Raph, but Kval and Raph not quite in damage of dying just yet. But let's see if Dynasty looks to apply pressure on Tur. What are they going to do? Because Tyrus is making the rotation up. He gets target lock onto Mowgli. The forward barrage is there. Benediction in. Tyrus avoids the Spitfires. A Surrey Strike back defensively towards the Crystal Sentry. Ordained did come out of Raph as he dropped down from the lane, but they really weren't trying to fight there.
They weren't, and Tyra's played that so well, and again, we're in 2.6. Skye doesn't have to be target locked on. She still has a pretty sizable amount of damage when not locked, and we've seen that on PT Lamb there. The Ordained came down, he didn't have much movement available to him, and the forward barrage brought him down to half health without that target locking. Again, this is going to rely on Tyra's really being able to just force PT Lamb out. He's not going to have as much potential onto the Scarf, as Scarf's going to be raining Spitfires in from the back line. But if he can force PT Lamb low or Mowgli low, that's going to give Kvalifar that ability to jump jets in or around the edge of the fight and get a huge burst of damage down. And now they're looking to push some damage on this turret.
Let's see what they're going to do here. No, as the way you described it, it's kind of like you're thinking Kval probably doesn't look to jump jet or apply damage until he sees some connect from this guy.
Absolutely. The Baron, the burst that he provides can be a very execute style attack, almost an assassin-like engage. You know, so if Tyros is able to get PT Lamb low, Kvalifar should be able to jump in, you know, with that big 500, 600 double hit spike and really just, you know, be able to capitalize on Tyra's bringing the enemies low. And Mowgli is here in the lane, but Scarf is forced back.
Ooh. And, you know, I think we literally just saw death from above, the forward barrage, the damage coming out, and the tier 1 turret is going to go down to SK Gaming, making it happen early on here in the game. Now, Rikumeza, PT Lamb back out into the lane. Dynasty, it feels like from their movement that they want to apply pressure, they want to do something, but they've just kind of failed to catch anybody here. They've failed to get damage down onto the turret. Am I misreading this?
Again, this kind of goes back into the Poison Shiv first onto PT Lamb. Yes, it provides you a lot of sustain. Yes, it gives you some basic attack speed, but you don't have the actual damage to push Kvalifar out. You don't have a lot of engaged potential with this build, so this is going to be about Scarf making it to the late game and about PT Lamb just tanking up some of the damage, allowing Scarf to get those Spitfires down. Again, he outranges Baptiste and Skye by a pretty sizable amount, so if he's able to force a fountain out of Raph early, that's really going to limit what kind of engagement SK is able to make. Right now, we do have a good rotation out of the side of Dynasty, splitting that gold, that ambient gold, getting on over to PT Lamb, going to help him get some damage. But Tyra's has a level over Rikumeza here. PT Lamb does have a level over Kvalifar, so it's going to be interesting to see how this next fight trades out. No Broken Myth yet complete for Tyra's, but getting close. Frostburn is online, so again, gonna make it difficult for PT Lamb to engage. Rose Offensive will help, but oh, here we go.
Ordained is
Huge
down.
damage.
PT Lamb, Rose Offensive forward, and he gets the on point onto K-Ball. Stands his ground with the jump jets. PT Lamb's low. Dragon's Breath from Rikumeza, not connecting as he would have liked. Holy Nova onto Raph. Raph dropping low, throws to the fountain. The Fearsome Shade does connect onto 2, but they're just not on target with damage. You can see maybe if Kvalifar was already jump jetting forward, or he was in range to get his attacks off, they could have done something with the Fearsome Shade, but nothing to follow up on there. Now, Dynasty, after the series of engagement, it looked like they sense that they have a bit of an opening here. And once again, the same movement they were doing, they move forward here. They're going to clear out a little bit of vision. And it looks like they want to poke on the turret. This is what they're doing. Let's see what they can get done here. Spitfire, Goops down. Kvalifar jump jets over. He's going to hit PT Lamb, taking him below 50% health with one jump jet combo there. Already massive amounts of damage.
Yeah, and that's why I was talking about Kvalifar really should be looking out for Tyra's getting a lot of damage down. That's the exact damage that we see out of Kvalifar there. And I actually don't mind the Fearsome Shade in that last fight to disengage. Guy and Baron aren't really online yet. Yes, Baron has that second item completed, but he's not really that dominant, can really bring down an entire team with one jump jet's kind of force yet. As well as Tyra's doesn't have the Broken Myth, so we don't have that scaling up damage out of Tyra's yet. Once we get that Broken Myth online, once we get the Monocle online, that's really where SK is going to be able to take off and really be such a huge threat. We've seen the Divine Intervention come through on PT Lamb, healed him back up, and just like that, you know, both teams really had to come out of that fight. Fountain was used, ultimates were used, and you know, Dynasty, again, on this Scarf, have some late game potential. It's just going to be really about if PT Lamb can sustain long enough in the fight.
Broken Myth completed for Tyrus, ramping up. He's got 3 stacks on it here. Raph with Ordained onto PT Lamb. They Rose Offensive forward, jump jets back from Kvalifar. PT Lamb getting low, but the Divine Intervention keeps him alive at this point. He needs to get back. Dragon's Breath comes out. Mowgli's back in with Benediction. Tyrus getting backwards with the forward barrage. He almost burns down. Spitfire connects onto Raph at the edge of that fight. Man, SK almost losing their core heroes. Raph doing a good job to keep his allies alive. Rikumeza trying to poke with the Spitfire. It's K-Ball once again moving backwards. PT Lamb could try to engage, but a nice Ordained. They're trying to, this is what they want to do. They want to take the turret down. Holy Nova, they should be able to take this turret down. Denominate. I know you would cry a sad tear if it did not fall there. It will. On the backside, Dynasty, all very low, pushing it to the edge and taking that turret down.
Yeah, and this is a key example of when not to chase for kills. They did a great job there of just applying damage to the turret. They do get the turret down. They don't find any kills off of it. But again, getting that 900 gold is absolutely huge for your team. But off of that recall, SK is now going to push this gold miner and maybe look to set something up. Scarf is recalling, so they're not going to get anything out of it. Overall, we do have a gold lead for the side of Dynasty Gaming here. Again, this is a later game composition for the side of SK. Obviously, Raph not quite that tanky yet. He only has the Fountain and the War Treads complete. But as that Echo comes out and we get that double Fearsome Shade down, there is a lot of potential for specifically Tyra's, who will get that movement speed when he has the target lock. He'll be able to chase the enemy as they run away from that Fearsome Shade. He'll be able to keep building up Broken Myth stacks and able to get that forward barrage damage down. And that's really the potential here. Echo now, though, complete for Mowgli.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Echoes coming out for Raph. That's a little bit down the line, but this Echo for Grace is ready to go. We have double Divine Intervention, and Denominate, you talked about this in the last few fights. Divine Intervention has been so powerful to keep them up and running through these fights, but to have 2, now PT Lamb is much more dangerous once he starts to engage.
Yeah, it is a lot of sustain provided to the Black Feather. Oh, hold on. Looks like we might have a little bit of engagement here. Not quite. Neither team really committing to this, knowing it can go either way.
Spitfire's coming out here. K-Vol looking for an opening. I feel like Kvalifar is ready. He knows that they could jump him at any moment. He's just kind of ready to jump jets wherever he needs to. Tyrus does not want to get caught. Just throwing forward barrage from range, exactly what he needs to do. And Raph doing the same with his bad mojos, looking for the Ordained. They're all going to port back. Weapon Infusion in the pocket of Kvalifar. Crystal Infusion out, level 11 for Tyrus. This feels like we're about to have a really big fight here.
It is, and this could really come down to one of these teams losing out on their actual infusion. Oh, good block by Rukumeza. Here we go.
Death from above. Cave Oliver jump jetting over the wall. Mowgli should take a pretty big basics. Yeah, I was about to say this should be a pretty big basic attack. 500 plus damage coming out there from Cave Oliver. Baron starting to hit.
Yeah, well, there's no armor yet on Mowgli either. If that goes on to PT Lamb, it's gonna be a smaller packet of damage just because he does have that tier 2 armor. But you can definitely see the effect Baron now has on the fight. And this is why I talked about Baron getting that third item is so important. And that's what we saw right there. So PT Lamb does have the breaking point completed. And again, obviously the Divine Intervention is going to really be able to sustain in the fight when paired up with the Poison Shiv. So it's not a lot of upfront damage. And you gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt. Yes, the double Divine Intervention can make the fight longer and let you build up more stacks of breaking point, but it can do the same for Tyra's with the Broken Myth, and Mowgli taking a lot of damage.
Oof, Mowgli taking a bunch of damage, but they're respecting that Divine Intervention right there. A lot of respect coming out from SK.
A lot of respect coming out for Dynasty Gaming as well. Mowgli has no armor built and has now built into a tier 2 kinetic shield as well to really be able to sustain some of that frontline damage from Tyra's. He wants to be able to absorb as much damage as that he can, since Baron, again, will likely be looking for a low health target to execute. If Mowgli can prevent Tyra's from getting Rikumeza or PT Lamb low, that's really a great pickup for Mowgli. I still think he needs to pick up some armor because as the captain, if you get deleted early, you're going to burn out that fountain, potentially even burn out a Divine Intervention on yourself, and that's not what we want to see. So this next fight with the Kraken on the board now could be huge for either team.
Benediction and Raph finding the stun with You Ordained. A nice on point onto Tyrus. They're going to jump forward with the Faint of Heart. Rose defensive backwards here. What's the play? Raph trying to frontline force team, but he's melting down low. Rikumez is going to throw up the Dragon's Breath. Jump jet over the wall. Cave Oliver dropping low, trying to get the attack damage. He's able to take one, but they burst him and down as they jump right over the wall. They're like, you got some mobility, but so do we.
Yeah, they definitely do, and I think the side of Dynasty actually takes a little bit of an advantage off that, especially since they come in now on this Crystal Sentry, taking that objective down, getting a little additional gold in their pocket. But we see the amount of damage that Tyra's can do if that forward barrage gets down onto Scarf, and that's what happened. He came forward with the Dragon's Breath, forward barrage came out, slowing him up. The Divine Interventions were already used on PT Lamb to get him through that fight, and then both teams really just have to disengage. They're not either one left in a healthy enough condition that they can push this Kraken, and this is going to come down to the next fight now. We still have a slight gold lead for the side of Dynasty Gaming, but again, as Baron comes online and now that Sky has the Eve of Harvest completed, this is a huge spike for SK. We can still see, obviously, Dynasty Gaming pull these fights together again. Baptiste not the tankiest captain, so depending on how Rikumeza plays out these fights, he is an item behind, but can be a huge threat.
He really can, and yeah, I mean, the Baptiste not the tankiest of captains, but if he can get those CCs down double Fearsome Shade, could be so good for these guys right now. Big attacks coming out of Cave Volifar, splashing onto Dynasty. They have to remember to spread Benediction in. They're going to jump forward. Rose offensive. PT Lamb's on the backside. The worst Rikumeza. Forward barrage coming out here. SK have just peeled Dynasty off. Raph throws Fearsome Shade out. That was his second Fearsome Shade actually coming out, and it does feel like Dynasty had a massive advantage in that fight. Raph's very low. He still has his fountain, but this is a precarious position to be in. Tyrus rooted up. Spitfire's going to connect. Benediction as well. Jump jet back. Tyrus low, but the forward barrage connecting. PT Lamb jumps in with a Faint Heart. On point, not quite connecting there. Death from above. Kind of an awkward placement. Ooh, he actually gets him with the forward barrage. Just the tip is all he needed. With the infusion, plus he was stacked up on the Broken Myth. Very nice plays from Tyrus.
Yeah, plus a big chunk of damage coming out of Kvalifar there really put Mowgli in that dangerous position. Mowgli just now bought some armor for himself. So right now, obviously SK starting up this Kraken, they have the damage potential to take it, and we're tied one turret to one turret right now, so this could be a very opportune push for them if they're able to find a fight. But we quite often see teams get a little too out of position with Kraken. They rely on, that Kraken's going to make it difficult for Scarf to get some Spitfires down onto good targets. If they play a little sloppy here, this could be Dynasty Gaming, only losing one turret, picking up an ace as well as the gold from the Kraken bounty. So SK looking like they have the opportunity for a good fight here, a good push here, still have to be careful because Dynasty has really found a lot of damage in these fights.
Oh, talk about finding damage. How about 608 on that crit? Cave Olafar, if you can get on to Rikamez again. Divine Intervention will heal Rikamez up. The turret dropping low. They're going to jump forward onto SK. Fearsome Shade coming out, but the Holy Nova connects onto Raph. PT Lamb's on the backside. He gets another Divine Intervention. The Healing coming out. They're taking Cave Olafar down. Tyrus, it's time to dance. PT Lamb trying to tango on point landing. Juking out the forward barrage. He's chasing him down. On point's going to land. Bane of Art, he's in there. Finds the kill. It's the ace. The Prophet has struck again. Denominate. How powerful are your curses?
Apparently they're very powerful against SK today. Again, we just talked about when you're pushing with Kraken, you do still have to respect that Dynasty can make a heavy engage, and that's exactly what we saw. Scarf went past the Kraken. They did lose out on 2 turrets for it, so SK still gets a decent push out of that Kraken. But, you know, finding the ace at this point in the game, finding the Kraken gold, we still have an advantage as far as gold on the side of Dynasty. We just have a turret advantage for SK, and that's absolutely huge. This still could go either way. If, you know, this game's getting late, the death timers are getting longer. So if Dynasty can find another fight, they could be able to find some additional turrets and maybe even a Kraken, depending on how far away that fight is. We're just, you know, about a minute and a half shy of Kraken being back on the board. SK has to be careful. I mean, again, there's a lot of engaged potential out of Dynasty Gaming.
I feel very similarly to how you're feeling. This is an incredibly close game. What does your heart tell you? Who do you think is going to have the edge here?
My heart tells me that Baron should have the late game. Now that he has 4 items complete, he's going to have just an absurd amount of damage, and he's actually committed into the double Tyrant's Monocle instead of that Tornado Trigger. So again, this is going to be about Kvalifar finding a execute style attack. He's not going to have the attack speed to continue on in a fight. And PT Lamb now, as well as Mowgli, have a metal jacket completed. So the real target for me here is find a way to get the damage down onto Rikameza. Find a way to, you know, take advantage of the Scarf being a little behind in gold compared to his teammates. Good damage coming down on the Mowgli there.
Good damage coming down. You can see that Tyrus is just kind of poking around the edges of these fights. For me, it's Tyrus. It's just got to come down to Tyrus. Of course, Cave Olafar has to find damage, but if this fight's going to get cleaned up, it's going to have to be this guy dancing around this fight, applying its damage. Scary situation at this point. Spitfire's coming out of Dynasty as they're in the left brush. Ordained out, but the Benediction in. They stunned up PT Lamb. Raph, he hits one Fearsome Shade. The second block. No, he's holding the second right now. They're moving in. Tyrus, he can try to get the damage with the forward barrage, but this is PT Lamb in deep on the Cave Oliver. They turn PT Lamb. PT Lamb on the run. Divine Intervention is going to keep him healed up. Ordained, he jumps right back in. They take him down. Raph still lives. Raph on the front line. Surrey Strike over the top with the Turtle-like Rikamez. He's going down. Rikamez is down. Tyrus is stunned. Cave Olafar over the wall. Mowgli melting down. Mowgli should fall as well. A triple kill for Baron. Every single kill coming just in the last 30 seconds for Baron in this game. What a fight. And you talked about the death timers. Look at that. That's not a cool place to be in if you're Dynasty.
It's not the place you want to be in, especially with Kvalifar having so much damage. But here comes the Crystal Sentry looking to have a little bit of effect. I don't think it's going to be enough as they are
when
now
your tier
on the
5
Vayne.
friend shows up to a fight, like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna help, dude.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it's looking. Again, we talked about the double-edged sword of the double Divine Intervention there. Tyra's was at 9 broken myth stacks for a majority of that fight. He found a lot of clean damage, but the real star here was Raph really running into that fight and using that second Fearsome Shade, forcing Mowgli and Rikameza back. That left PT Lamb in a position where he was then in a 1v3, and it did not work out for them. That is game number 1 going over to SK, and that is now SK basically locking in their seed number 2 for the championship.
Oh, locked and loaded. Let's go. Well, we'll keep this moving forward, guys, because that's only game 1. But to break that one down, we have Munchable, Sweet J, Tasty Bacon. Take it away.
It was absolutely only game one, still at least one more to go, and that was exceptionally close. Honestly, that still could have gone either way until maybe the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game where it finally started to look the way of SK.
Yeah, this game was incredibly back and forth. Both sides were playing their compositions very, very well, and it really just came down to a couple of minor outplays down the stretch that was enabling the side of SK to pick up the victory.
Yeah, the early game started very slow, Sweej. It was very much kind of starting to just build up those items.
Yeah, they were just basically playing around to get some few kills with some rotations, but SK does get the first turret at the 7-minute mark with the Baron and Skypoke. They do a really good job there, but they didn't really do much with it. Dynasty then gets the first turret at 10:45, and they have a gold lead at the 700 gold lead mark there. And at 12 minutes was a decisive point for Dynasty. Grace actually gets Echo before Baptiste gets Echo. But then Dynasty doesn't do much with that Echo advantage. Mowgli was actually ahead of tier 3 items than Raph was most of the game. But I feel like Dynasty could have pushed that advantage a little more before Baron and Sky got more into the late game. They won a key fight, and then it came down to the last fight, which is what won the game.
Yeah, one of those key fights was around the 18:30 mark. That was when we finally saw a team take a significant advantage, because fights up to that point had been like 1, maybe 2 kills, but neither team walking away with a confident win. Then we got to that late game stage. We got to the fight at the 18-minute mark, and that was when SK finally managed to grab themselves a bit of a lead. This is actually the fight before that one.
Yeah, it really felt like neither team was taking advantage of their item power spikes that they got throughout the game. And like you mentioned at the start of this, it felt like both teams were just really emphasizing playing towards the late game. And SK, I mean, it makes sense for them to do so with the composition that they had, but the late game, the hyper late game, just favored their composition a little bit more.
Yeah, this is a beautiful play here. Just watch Mowgli here. He blocks the fear and then stuns Baptiste, and it gives a divine intervention to PT Lamb, which pretty much saves and absorbs all that damage, allowing him to then blow up the Baron, gets the heal, then is able to then chase the Sky and kill her. And then, of course, Raph gets killed by Rekumeza, and Mowgli did really well as Grace in that game.
Yeah, that stun right there prevented Raph from being able to get the second Fearsome Shade off. That would have disrupted the kills PT Lamb was able to pick up. And right here, we're going to get to see what happens when the Fearsome Shades are able to get through. The first one gets blocked beautifully. Again, great play from Mowgli. But then Raph holds the second one. And the fact that he just was patient enough to wait before using the second Fearsome Shade, this one comes through, does not get blocked. It ends up fearing 2 members, leaving PT Lamb completely isolated. He just gets dropped so low that even with the Divine Intervention coming through, it's not enough to save his life. And that allows SK to then go through and clean up the rest of the game.
Yeah, and I feel like Dynasty shouldn't have fought this fight. They're already low. A lot of them already lost health from all the Baron and Sky poke there. So I felt like they should have probably backed off and made sure they were full health and then engaged really hard. But unfortunately, it didn't work out for them, and that was the key fight of all fights that decided the end of this game.
Yeah, and you can see there Tyra's with 100% kill participation for his team on that. Sky, it was Kivalafar that finished off the game, got the triple kill towards the end. And incredibly close game. It does go the way of SK Gaming in the end, though, and they will now lead this series. So let's start to talk about the next game. What needs to change here for Dynasty? Because it didn't feel like that was just a far and away victory or anything like that. I don't feel like Dynasty have to go straight back to reinventing the wheel, but definitely something needs to change if they win the game.
Yeah, Dynasty needs to win. Again, they had Grace Echo earlier before Baptiste got Echo. There's another key fight at the 15 mark where Scarf does a Dragon Breath and Baron gets really low. He jumps over the wall onto their mid healer, but Scarf is then trying to focus Sky and Blackfeather as well, and then Baron's able to get launched 2 rockets and hit Scarf and Blackfeather, and they lose that fight. And I feel like if they won that fight and got an ace, that would have changed the game, and they would be able to snowball, get another ace, and maybe the outcome would have been different. But that one key fight, and that one, like, Scarf could have killed Baron over the wall, but didn't. So they need to focus better, make sure they secure the kill before they try to chase after another carry.
Yeah, I want to reiterate as well to you guys at home how important this game is for both of these teams. Even if that one win towards SK has skewed the standings a little bit in their favor, Dynasty can still push for 3rd place at minimum. So there's still a lot for them to gain from this one. But SK especially, they have a real shot at first right now. If they can win, and Fnatic wins all of their series, if they both win the semifinals, we could end up with a final to decide first seed. That is an insane thing to think about.
Yeah, and for the side of Dynasty, unfortunately, that loss does prevent them from being able to get the number 2 seed. I did a little bit of research on the tiebreaker between the teams. So Dynasty can't become number 2. They can still get number 3, but SK still need to keep putting points up to secure that number 2 spot, because Mouse Sports is still a threat for that 2nd seed overall. You know, nothing in Europe is set in stone yet still. So it is going to be that, you know, Dynasty and SK both want to have as strong of a seed as possible, because the higher your seed going into Los Angeles, the better your matchups will be going throughout the weekend.
And I mean, SK Gaming still going to be having nightmares about being robbed of their seed by G2 last season with the 33 HP Vein Crystal. But it's time to get on into game number 2 here. Baron will be the first ban for SK Gaming on the A side, and now Dynasty looking towards
SK has done this draft a few times. They normally will secure the Grace if it's not banned away from them. If Vox is banned or Idris is banned, for example, they ban that Baron, and now they'll take the Grace away. And then normally on the second rotation, they take away Blackfeather on the ban. So now for Dynasty, are they going to, once they secure the Grace, is Dynasty going to pick Vox, for example, which is actually pretty good into Grace? So let's see if SK is going to first pick this Vox and give Dynasty Grace, or I think they're probably secure the Grace though, because there's so many combos that can go with Grace, like Grumpjaw, etc. But instead, they're going to go the opposite and pick the Vox, giving Dynasty the Grace competition. And remember, Baptiste and Kath are also still open, but both these teams don't seem to care about that combo.
Yeah, it's going to be the Vox locked in to start things off, and we'll see what Dynasty will counter with for their first pick of the game. Won't be surprised to see a Grace locked in here, although Vox does well into Grace, so we'll see where they choose to go with that one.
Yeah, with the Vox there, obviously, you can definitely go multiple different directions. If you look for that captain, a lot of teams will like to try and pick up a captain here because of the fact that you can then use your last 2 picks as more counters, try and get a better idea of what your opponents are going to be looking to do. So they do go ahead, grab that Grace off the table. Mowgli's been a big fan of this Grace pick, has been able to make it work. He played exceptionally well in game number 1, just fell a little bit short.
Yeah, they should ban Kath here, and just or Baptiste if they don't deal with the Captain Baptiste, and they'd rather deal with the Captain Kath. But one of their bans should be a Baptiste or Kath. If they're not, they're going to go and stick to their normal draft, but it's going to be a Samuel. And that leaves Kath and Baptiste open right now. So I don't think SK will ban either, because a Baptiste pick with Grace, although strong, you can counter pick into it very well on the side, on A side here.
Yeah, one of the strongest things about that Baptiste pick is the fact that you can flex it. And when you've already locked in the Grace, unless you want to take that to lane like Cavalifar does, then it's not that flexible anymore. You know that the Baptiste is going into that jungle role. So we'll see where they choose to go with this one. Taking a lot of time on this ban though. What are the other options for SK right now?
I mean, there's a lot of options. You can go Blackfeather. You can try and take away the Baptiste. You can look for maybe even trying to shut down something like an Idris pick. Going with the Grace is a really smart one. So we'll see. It is going to be the Idris taken away, so that the Idris Grace combo does not come through from Dynasty, and Dynasty immediately just going to grab themselves up that Baptiste.
So now SK, will they pick Kath here potentially, or will they go with Lance Sky? Would be a really good composition into this, because Lance and Sky are good against this Grace combination that just wants to dive, wants to CC somebody and dive onto them. So I feel like if SK wants to win the draft here, they definitely need to pick Sky. But they might go for a Scarf, but normally I think Sky would be really great into Grace here, and along with like a Lance or Arden pick.
See where they choose to go, what direction.
Ooh, they're going to go with Scarf. Man, I don't know about that, because against Baptiste with the Fearsome Shake and cancel the ultimate and stuff like that, I don't know why like EU likes Scarf so much. Scarf does have has a role, but I feel like they're overly picking it.
Well, it's definitely got a good win rate here in EU, so we'll see. Obviously, it's something that they've had success on in the past, but we'll see what they're going to pick up as the captain. They only have 8 seconds left to choose what Raph is going to be playing, and the Arden comes on through. Seen him play it a lot of times, and we've seen it comboed with the Scarf a lot of times. This is a pretty standard draft coming out from SK.
Yeah, this is comfort picks kind of all around. Cavalifar, while he's known for the melee laners, has been playing a lot of Vox this season, has kind of shaken things up a bit, and of course, we've already know about Raph on this.
Yeah,
Arden, he's incredible with this
I think
hero.
Pizza Land will probably go with Glaive here, potentially. It's a lot of CC that you have 3 stuns, so this comp that would work really well into this composition. They're going to go with Ringo instead, which is interesting. So basically Ringo would need to build hopefully a 4-item build, just get the Grace ult and just delete either Vox or Scarf here.
And we've actually seen Ringo a lot more frequently these past couple of weeks, both in Vainglory8 and in Challengers especially. If you've been watching those matchups, a lot of Ringo's been starting to come out, especially against Vox. It's almost exclusively against Vox in the lane. You have a large range advantage, and then as you go into the late game, if you just get those 4 items, you can find some really interesting flanks to be able to take around the fight and get onto the back line. If Ringo can get onto Scarf, Scarf is just dead. Will be blown up in an instant. Ringo can get traded, but if you can just take out the Scarf right away, you can win the fights.
All right, we'll see whether they can take out this Scarf during this game. Obviously, SK 1-0 up. They're going to be looking to try and round this one out and move into the semi-finals, but Dynasty will not go down without a fight. We'll see whether they can fight well enough. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter to let us know whether you want this to go to 3 games or whether you want this to be a sweep in favor of SK. Let's pass it over to our casters and get on into this second game. It's SK against Dynasty.
SK Gaming versus Dynasty here in Game 2. Denominating. This is going to be an intense matchup here. SK want to close the door. Dynasty want to reverse this series around. What do you think is going to happen, man?
Based on just the draft, I do have to give the edge over to the side of SK, simply because the best way to beat a Baptiste is surely just to outrange him, and Scarf is absolutely amazing at that. Now, normally I would give the edge to PT Lamb on the Ringo into the Vox. However, with Raph on Arden, one of his best heroes in my opinion, should be able to really help Kvalifar scale up in these fights. But it is going to be Dynasty Gaming make an aggressive rotation here, looking for some farm.
Dynasty's been doing this for weeks now, almost more than any other team. They rotate super hard as a unit early on, securing the mid. They're going to secure the Elder Treant as well. They should, unless Raph can steal this. Raph not able to pull the God Vanguard out there. And Dynasty secure themselves a nice little rotation. Well, it felt like they had secured a little rotation, but SK still moving forward. Raph, not going to get the mid. Riku Meza grabs that, but you have Tyrus right behind him. Tyrus should be ticking over to level 2 here in about 15 seconds or less, I would imagine. Riku Meza, hero with the Mowgli, they're fighting over the backs right now. Tyrus getting lit up, the benediction is there. Laners have not dropped down yet. Vox starting to move, Tyrus dropping low. You're in a bad place, friend. Tyrus is down. First blood to Dynasty. Now Raph dropping low as well. Bad mojo. Where's the good mojo? There's no such thing. They're all bad. This is PT Lamb. He's here with the Achilles shot, the twirling silver. They've taken the second kill. Kvalifar now on the run, got the Vanguard from his buddy, and he's out of there.
Yeah, this was a smart pickup from Riku Meza here on the boots. It worked out so well for them. Scarf came in looking to steal away that Treant. It did go over to Riku Meza, so that gave him the additional health regeneration and energy regeneration. He boots past Raph here on this Arden and found a empowered Bad Mojo onto Tyra's. Huge burst of damage. They were able to swing the fight their way and find 2 kills just 2 minutes into the game, so definitely showing some signs of life here for the Dynasty Gaming side here. PT Lamb and Kvalifar just kind of trading some farm back and forth here in the lane, though.
Just trading back and forth. And, you know, Denominator, I'm looking at Mowgli's build. He did not pick up the boots early on here. And we've seen a lot of Graces doing that. Not like they actually need it, but it allows them to do some aggressive things early. Do you think it's because they do like that 3-man rotation where he feels he doesn't need the boots to make those, well, you know, those outplays that Graces do by themselves sometimes?
Absolutely. It definitely comes down to the 3-man rotation. You don't quite need the speed for safety as much when you are with your entire team. Obviously, you want to be the one taking damage so that PT Lamb can use that early aggression out of Ringo, so that Riku Meza can get some good Bad Mojos down. So it makes a lot of sense just to be tanky, just to try to frontline some of that damage. And, you know, if it would have been a single rotation for, you know, Grace trying to just steal away some backs, the boots make more sense. But again, that's just not Dynasty's playstyle. They want to push that aggression early, and PT Lamb a little bit of an edge here over Kvalifar. Kvalifar actually does miss 2 minions there as the wave gets forced up. So gonna keep the edge for PT Lamb a little bit here.
And PT Lamb, we go back a year ago in competitive Vainglory. PT Lamb was one of the big Ringo players. So I'm sure he's only gotten more experience as time has gone on, and it's nice to see the Ringo coming out here. You mentioned during the draft, we were sitting here just kind of talking amongst ourselves about how we thought these picks would play out. That you thought Ringo should do pretty good into the box.
In the early game, definitely. And into the late game, if he's able to find a clear pickoff onto Vox, he should out-trade Vox as far as just 1v1 dueling damage. That's how Ringo is. He has the natural move speed and attack speed in his twirling silver. So 9 times out of 10, the sustain of Vox isn't going to be able to deal with the raw damage of Ringo. This is a team game, though. This isn't going to be about dueling. This is going to be about Raph protecting Kvalifar, letting Kvalifar get that breaking point and scale up in the fights. Whereas we'll likely see PT Lamb go with like a Sorrow Blade, a Tension Bow, maybe into a Tornado Trigger or a breaking point, but it's a more expensive build. It's going to take him longer to get there. So Kvalifar should come online pretty evenly with PT Lamb. But, again, Tyra's on this Scarf has had such huge performances, and the outranging that he has over Rikumeza. As this game goes on, I think the aggression of the Baptiste is going to have to be reined back a little bit, and they're going to have to find a good Ordained to get a pick.
A good Ordained probably going to be necessary. The question is, will there be reflex blocks at that time? Rikumeza has Shatterglass. He gets hit with a Spitfire. A big amount of damage. Holy Nova connecting onto Raph. Ordained down onto Kvalifar. Dynasty Gaming poking, looking for the edge, looking for the weakness in the armor of SK as SK stay as a unit. Spitfire is just coming down that brush, that right mustache brush there. And Kvalifar, he's just like, okay, guys, I'm just farming. Like, if there's an opportunity, that's great, but nothing's really coming of it.
Yeah, and when you're in the lane, when both teams are in the lane, if you're going to trade out damage, you don't want it to be onto Kvalifar. If you're just going to trade some poke, you want to get that damage down onto either Scarf or Arden, preferably Scarf. Just because Kvalifar is sitting there in the lane, has his Poison Shiv, and is healing up the entire time that he's sitting there clearing wave, so the poke's not quite as effective on him. This is gonna have to be Dynasty Gaming play aggressively. They have to use this Ringo to their advantage. If it gets to the late game, I see SK really just starting to take over the fights incredibly quickly. Obviously, again, the breaking point on Kvalifar will be ramping up, as well as Tyra's will be building up those broken myth stacks, and there's that poke exchange.
Yeah, Rikumeza getting lit up, man. Spitfire, just the tail edge of that Spitfire connecting. Rikumeza dropping so incredibly low. You said it before, it's the range disadvantage for Batiste, making it hard for him to get on target to apply damage. A Shatterglass on the Batiste early on is nothing to laugh at. He's just not applying the damage as he wants to. Mowgli standing his ground for his team, front laning for the turret and for PT Lamb, but how much longer can he do so?
It's going to be a downhill battle for this Baptiste. Baptiste has to build up the Reap Soul Shards before he's really able to take out anything in a fight. But Dynasty looking aggressive here, trying to get some damage down on the turret, but SKs are rotating up now to force them off.
Kvalifar missed the last hit. I just want to point that out. I tease you, Kvalifar. He's having a good time. He gets the big lane minion there. No harm, no foul. A lot of flares coming out from Raph, just making sure they control the vision game. I like it. I like to see that full inventory of flares every single time. We have Gauntlet available. Wait for it's ready to go. They got Dragon's Breath. Are SK looking to fight or just farm? Because you said they scale.
They definitely scale. And again, as Tyra's gets... Ooh, hold on. Mowgli looking like he might be getting low here.
Man, he's looking like a Batiste, just getting lit up. So incredibly squishy. Grace getting low. PT Lamb dropping low. Just doesn't look real good for Dynasty. I gotta say, the turret's falling low as well. Rikumeza looking for the Ordained. Bad Mojo connects. He's looking for a target to catch. This turret is just like one, maybe a Spitfire and a Goop combo or a couple attacks out of Kvalifar from going down. Mowgli went back to the base, all right? So he buys a couple items, he's making his way back out, but this is dropping very low. This is going to be sketchy timing. Are they going to fight Denominate? Spitfire comes through. They didn't even need to goop combo. Turrets down. Ordained on to K-Volifar. Bad Mojo. Mowgli with a benediction in here. PT Lamb winds up for the Hellfire Brew. Oh, it's so devastating, the weapon Hellfire Brew. K-Volifar is going to burn down a little bit. Bad Mojo's over the wall. Dynasty Gaming trying to round up SK here. Ordained down onto Raph. They find the stun up. Holy Nova gonna actually be blocked up. Can he get down? Oh no, that's a disaster of a gauntlet. Ugh, wishes he could have that one back.
Yeah, that's gonna be now a 110-second cooldown for that gauntlet as we go on through this game, and that's gonna be Dynasty taking this opportunity to push down a gold mine. Again, as this game goes on, we have to see the aggression out of Dynasty. That's really where they win out here. It is a little difficult for the Baptiste. Obviously, we talked about the Scarf just outranging him. That does make it a little more difficult for him to build up those soul shards and really get that burst damage down. But that's what Baptiste is better at than Scarf. Just the bad mojos, they have that AoE effect that it can just be so devastating, especially once you start hitting that huge damage spike, which, you know, now that we have the clockwork, we will start to see a bit more damage come out here on from this Baptiste. But I mean, you know, we almost have the Broken Myth now complete for Tyras, and that's where, you know, these fights for Dynasty are going to have to be, okay, you have to engage or you're going to lose this fight.
Tyrus just man-moding, flexing on Dynasty. He's like, yo, I don't care, 2v1, let's go. I am the Scarf, the Golden Dragon. Mowgli benediction in here. Bad Mojo's consistently coming out of Rikamezi. He's looking to connect, looking to get that splash damage like he talked about, something that could turn the fight in their favor. Nothing quite yet. PT Lamb back to the base, he'll heal up. He grabs a weapon infusion in case they can get on target. Pop that weapon infusion and go to town. K-Volifar hit with Bad Mojo. Ordained on K-Vol, he's stunned up. Mowgli finds that Holy Nova. They're gonna block off the Fearsome Shade. Actually clips Tyrus, Wrap drop below, throws the Fountain. K-Volifar standing his ground, wait for it, comes out. Dragon's Breath, are they getting baited in here? PT Lamb needs to reposition, he's gonna stand his ground. Tyrus trading, he's gonna get choked down by the Ringo here. They've lost 2, they lost 3. Dynasty Gaming turned all the way up.
Dynasty Gaming turning that fight around very quickly. Again, they're at a point in the game where they just have to be aggressive. They just have to force a fight when they're that far away from the turret. And that's what we've seen there, is a huge fight that was looking good for the side of SK, and Dynasty was able to turn it around. That is now the second turret going over to Dynasty, as well as the entire jungle of SK making its way into Rikumeza's pocket. And this is what we need to see here out of Dynasty, and they picked such a good fight. They forced Kvalifar down low, and then just went in heavily and engaged. Echo now complete for Grace. This is going to provide so much more sustainability for the side of Dynasty.
Dynasty. It feels like they're on the back foot, but they're not. It's just so confusing to me, SK applying this pressure and SK finding what seems to be an engagement, and then boom, just going back the other way.
Well, PT Lamb has gone an incredibly aggressive build on this Ringo. Sorrowblade, double monocle, relying on just the twirling silver for his basic attack speed. It's going to be interesting to see what he goes as his last item. He has a couple options. He could go with the breaking point, since it's going to scale up so quickly with the monocles and Sorrowblade, or he could go into a tornado trigger and just look for the sheer damage. Get 100% crit ratio.
Get it.
It's going to be very exciting to see PT Lamb as this game progresses. He has so much single target damage, and Kvalifar only has a tier 1 armor right now. So if PT Lamb is allowed to get onto Kvalifar, that's what I was talking about earlier with the whole Ringo should win that duel every time. With this build, Ringo should really easily win that duel every single time.
And okay, so he's picked up a little Pierce. I was gonna ask you before you picked that up, like, what your preference was for him to finish out his items, but
he could go a Bonesaw, he could go a Tension Bow, and he could go a Breaking Point. There are options. He's definitely leaning towards either the Bonesaw or the Tension Bow now. I personally like what build he has, going to Bonesaw just for the additional attack speed. We got to fight right now.
K-Ball standing his ground. Fearsome Shade, they're on the run. They're so scared. The Gauntlet does peel them off this fight. Dynasty Gaming standing their ground. They're getting healing. Rikumez with a Divine Intervention still alive. PTLam trying to stutter step. He's doing a good job. The Ordained does find a stun right on the edge onto Raph. Goop coming down from Tyrus, zoning them out. The Spitfires are saying, danger, danger, Dynasty. And Dynasty are going to heed their warning.
Both teams incredibly low, forced to exit that fight. Nobody drops. Kavalifar actually lives with just a sliver of health thanks to a beautiful Vanguard out of Raph. We are now up 6-0 for the side of Dynasty with about a 4,000 gold lead. So really looking, again, you know, they have to push this aggression. They have to win while they have the opportunity. If Liz and Kavalifar are allowed to get to full build, it's going to start sliding over to the side of Dynasty Gaming. So they're doing a great job. Grace being really aggressive with the engages. PT Lamb using the boots and the twirling silver to, you know, really create a gap close for himself. He doesn't have any actual movement abilities besides that increased attack. And now it looks like SK may be looking to find something, and that something is the farm out of the Dynasty Gaming jungle. Wow, that farm. It's been a pretty intense game so far. PT Lamb, huge performance so far on this Ringo, a hero that we've really seen fall out of the meta just because he doesn't have those movement abilities. You know, there's not any risk. You know, there's no Lance here, there's no Catherine here. You don't have as much need to jump out of the way. The only exception being maybe the Gauntlet, but he is trading out damage so well with SK right now.
PT Lamb. This guy has always been one of my favorite laners. But I don't think I've ever got to meet the guy. I'm not sure that he's traveled to an event. We'll have to check later on that one as we have a fight breaking out. Mowgli on the front side first team. Spitfire's connecting on the Rikumez with a Fearsome Shade. Peels them off. He gets a Divine Intervention out of Mowgli. Mowgli doing a good job to get his life. He lost Raph. PT Lamb, is he standing his ground? But K-Volifar's there. How about some breaking points? K-Volifar starting to melt him up, but the bad note just there. Double kill coming out. Rikumez burning to the Dragon's Breath. Tyrus, the God Dragon, stands amongst the corpses on the Halcyon Fold.
Tyra's building up 9 broken myth stacks in that last fight, was really able to turn it around. The Ordained came out and killed Kavalifar, but there just wasn't enough damage yet out of Baptiste. Again, anytime that Baptiste and Scarf are in a 1v1 trade, it should be Scarf as long as he lands that initial Spitfire. And now PT Lamb was looking like he wanted the boots out and try to find Tyra's using the movement speed of the twirling silver to try to get out here. Not able to find it. But, look at the damage he is doing right now. Sitting on 1,300 gold. He is getting close to completing his next tier 3 item. If it is the tension bow, he'll be able to complete it when he makes it to shop. If it's the bone saw, he may be a little ways away. I think 150 gold. We'll have to see what he does.
What would you build? What would you, if you could choose for him?
I like the bone saw. I like with the sheer amount of damage that you have. I think you have to go the bone saw. You have to get the additional attack speed because yes, the tension bow provides you some pierce and some burst up front, but these fights are getting pretty long. So if we're able to pierce the metal jacket that's going to come out of Kavalifar, that's going to make the trade so much easier for him than if he just has that one sheer burst of damage. And Mowgli making a very aggressive engage here again.
Mowgli, he's just breaking point stacks. K-Volivar throws the wait for it. This is going to be Rikumez getting melted down. Divine Intervention keeps him alive for a second. PT Lamb, though, he takes Rap down in the dirt. Hellfire Brew, that's a bold Hellfire Brew. He's on to Tyrus. He's got the attack damage. He's taking K-Volivar down. Triple kill coming out here for PT Lamb. Mowgli basically ignored through the entire fight. We'll go ahead and clean up the lane minions. Dynasty taking that fight.
And Bonesaw is now complete for PT Lamb, so I like this itemization that he's gone, and we've seen it right there. Sheer amount of single target damage that this Ringo has with this build was able to clean up the end of a fight that was not looking in their favor. We had a great silence come out of Kavalifar, and it really made it difficult for Mowgli to save Rikumeza. Rikumeza drops early on in that fight, but PT Lamb cleans it up. Mowgli finds the last little bit of damage he needs to help PT Lamb, but just absolutely annihilated by PT Lamb. Sorrowblade, double Tyrant's Monocle, Bonesaw. working into some defense next. It's going to be neat to see if he goes with the Journey boots before he goes into an Aegis. I do think that he could use those boots as an additional engage, since obviously landing damage onto an enemy hero will refresh that cooldown from 50 seconds all the way down to 12. So that would give him a lot of engage and escape potential.
I think that's such a good call. I would love to see it. You know PT Lamb's having a good time right now. Anytime your damage output is like this on your Ringo, oh my goodness. It's just like, can I get on target, team? Are you ready to fight? Because let's team fight. I'm ready to go. I'm going to spam some pings and let you know. Tyrus, Spitfire's coming through. Not quite connecting. Bad mojos do, though. Riku Meza, he's just a bad mojo machine, isn't he? Constantly just chucking these out.
And actually, we have an offensive, we have this jungle Baptiste who has gone with an Echo, and he actually sells his boots here to refresh the cooldown. It's going to cost him about 150 gold, but there's the Journey boots I was talking about for PT Lamb. That's going to give him a lot more freedom in these fights, so SK really has to play this careful. Going the Bone Saw has really made that item a lot more gold effective since Kvalifar has this tier 3 armor built. And I think if you're Dynasty Gaming here, you have to find a fight, and they're going for it.
Mind, body, and soul, I'm ready for the fight. The Fearsome Shade, Raph getting melted down. He's gonna throw the cancel off the gauntlet with the Fearsome Shade. Riku Meza, he gets the Divine Intervention as well. What a play. Second Divine Intervention on the PT Lamb. PT Lamb's there. Mowgli jumping forward onto Kvalifar. Dragon's Breath, though. Riku Meza's burning down. Tyrus is a dragon, remember? They stun him up, they chop him down. Kvalifar, though, he's got a couple breaking point stacks of his own. Mowgli jumps in. Kvalifar's gonna look to kite him down. Oh my goodness, Kvalifar against Mowgli? Oh, what a special little treat if we got to see that one-on-one. Then Mowgli's gonna just be like, all right, bro, we used to be friends. Remember, let me go.
Yeah, Kvalifar cleans up some of those minions in the wave. Poison Shiv taking effect and giving him some healing back. 2-for-2 trade. 13-7 for the side of Dynasty. Still, we were at a point in the game where it was 0-6. And we still have a 6-kill lead for the side of Dynasty. So SK showing some signs of life. Kvalifar particularly finding a lot of damage in that last fight, but we can't count out that Dragon's Breath out of Tyra's there. Sitting, I think when he started up that Dragon's Breath, he was sitting around 6 or 7 stacks. Just totally melted Riku Meza. PT Lamb came in and cleaned up with a lot of damage, but it wasn't enough. Again, Kvalifar ramps up in these fights, whereas PT Lamb has a little bit of ramp to his build with the Bone Saw. Obviously, the more stacks he gets, the more armor he's going to pierce. But Kvalifar ramps up with sheer damage, and that's what we've seen in that last fight. He comes out with just a sliver of health, and fortunately, with the way that fight went, nobody was able to take any objective control. And we now are going to be looking for this next fight. Kraken on the board, 20 minutes. Death timer is getting incredibly long. One more fight could spell disaster for either team.
That is just absolutely crazy. Dynasty, while they felt like they were on the back foot, that it felt like SK were setting the pace. Dynasty continuously turned these fights around and appeared to come out on top. But even then, SK is still such a threatening beast. At this point, what's SK gonna do? They're on the Crystal Sentry, starting to apply a little damage. Flare's coming out. Mowgli's there, lets him know, hey, I know exactly what you're gonna do here, but they can't defend the Crystal Sentry, which is the hard part. Mowgli, he's got vision over SK, but nobody else was there to respond. Now, Dynasty, as 3, moving forward. Spitfire hits Riku Meza right there. BM starting to stack up for Tyrus. That's what you said was so good for them last time. Spitfire is coming through once again. Can he catch them fight and a choke point? No, they're not going to get baited into that. In fact, Dynasty are just going to move down the lane, forcing SK to rotate around the bottom side of the Kraken. Let's see what's going to happen here. More Spitfires coming out. Raph holding that gauntlet. The golden gauntlet. I'm ready to see it, Raph. I'm ready to see it just get cut loose. Raph, he's been very utility focused on his items. We've seen a few Echo gauntlets come out. Oh, hold that thought. Arden, what are you going to do? You're going to move in there? Mowgli, he's jumped in with the Benediction. The Holy Nova's not going to connect there. Fearsome Shade did, but they immediately turn it right back around. The Atlas Pauldron out onto Vox, doing some pretty good work, but he Sonic Zooms around, Ordained onto Raph. PT Lamb trying to stand his ground, trying to get on target. Kvalifar, another Sonic Zoom. Couple more breaking point stacks. Divine Intervention out onto PT Lamb, and I think that's a safe call for Dynasty. Just get out of there.
Well, especially since Dynasty burned literally all of their activatables as well as both Divine Interventions, and Raph still has that fountain sitting in his pocket, so that would have been a big opportunity. One thing I do want to point out in that last fight that did go very well for the side of Dynasty was Riku Meza throwing out that Fearsome Shade was actually able to interrupt the gauntlet out of Raph, so just excellent timing there. If that gauntlet came down, that could have been a fight going over to SK very quickly.
That's a really good call there. There are so many abilities coming out with the double echo here. Trying to keep track of them in real time is just absolutely insane. These players making it happen though. Spitfire, the goop's down. PT Lamb smacks Tyrus. He's like, yo, Dragon, you want to fight? Okay. I'm here to melt your armor down. My name is PT Lamb, and this is my Ringo. Dynasty moving forward. They have Raph down towards the jungle. They felt like they could have kind of cut them off there, but they're not going to do that. They move back down towards the jungle. They clear out some scout traps. Raph knows exactly what's going on. I don't think Dynasty looked to start up Kraken, but maybe they just need to do some purchasing and try to find a better angle.
PT Lamb does now have the Aegis complete, so Scarf is going to be a little less of a threat, as well as Rikumeza has it complete. I'm actually a little interested that Mowgli...
Hellfire
here we go.
Looks like they said go! They said go! The gauntlet's down, the fearsome shade. They're gonna take down Raph. They just melt right through him. It doesn't matter about Dragon's Breath. The second fearsome shade! Tyrus into the wall! It's like they have a lance or something. He's against the Tyrus melting down. And Dynasty take 2, lose none. This should be their Kraken, and this should be their push.
Dynasty is playing this so well. They're finding damage where they need to. The gauntlet came out of Raph. It was a really good gauntlet. It was just placed just right. But again, the single target damage coming out of PT Lamb, they just say, okay, if you're going to engage right now, we're just going to blow you up. And they take Raph out of the fight immediately. And that's going to be a Kraken now going on over to Dynasty. This Ringo build has so much objective damage that Dynasty, if they're able to pick up even just one kill here, if they find a kill on either Tyraz or Kvalifar, they could potentially just push 3 turrets with this Kraken. Rikumeza actually rotating down, looking to refresh his infusion. Dynasty Gaming, again, one fight here, they find one kill, and they can very likely end the game. SK really has to find an ace here to really get anything done, or at least find PT Lamb and Rikumeza. Hellfire Brew's coming out.
Yeah, it's going to be blocked off. Nice block there. I think the Vanguard even came out of Raph as well. Now SK on the back foot. Mowgli jumps in one more time. Dynasty probably pull off this end. Yeah, it looks like the Kraken dropping low. They're going to just get back into the jungle. They'll take the Crystal Sentry out. Pretty crazy. Crystal Sentry is still alive 25 minutes in.
Yeah, Crystal Sentry's on both sides actually still alive. That is actually the first life of the SK Sentry that is now gone. 25 minutes into this game, 22 kills on the board. Old lead becoming pretty non-existent here. You have about 4,000 on the side of Dynasty, but as builds get maxed out, that gold is not going to equate to really much of anything, so Rikumeza working towards the Broken Myth now, going to provide a lot of damage, but we have a engagement here out of Dynasty.
The Ordained, the Fearsome Shade coming out. That he caught 2, actually. That Gauntlet, a little questionable, Raph. We can talk about that one later. He hangs out inside as long as possible, but will be forced back. Now Dynasty appear to have a bit of an advantage, unless I'm missing something here at the Nominee. They're just kind of wrangling up SK, forcing them back into their base. They'll take their jungle one more time. They're just choking them out now.
Yeah, and they need to start funneling the gold onto this Scarf. I actually don't know why Kvalifar, it just cleared out that wave. But we'll talk about that later, because now we have a fight breaking out.
Trying Silver, the Ordained is out, the Fearsome Shade. They just ran it right into the turret. Crystal Sentry's going to make his way out now. It's not like it's a huge deal. Divine Intervention coming out, keeping PT Lamb in fighting shape. The Ordained just consistently out of Rikumez every time. The Bad Mojo, Mowgli in with the Benediction, giving the Holy Shield to his team. He's going to miss on the Holy Nova. Raph got in there with the Atlas Pauldron, but not hitting PT Lamb. PT Lamb's on to Kvalifar. PT Lamb's got the damage, but the Dragon's Breath, they've turned it around. Tyrus, can Tyrus do it? He's got the majority of the damage that they need. PT Lamb tries to stand his ground. PT Lamb is down, and to nominate, SK have flipped the script on this game.
They have indeed. Kraken is not yet on the board, but it will be very shortly. So that's really a great fight for SK there. As I was touching base, though, we really don't want to see Kvalifar cleaning out as much farm because we want to get Tyraz to a point that he has a tier 3 armor, that he has tier 3 boots, specifically those Halcyon Chargers, helping him with his energy regeneration, helping him with his cooldown speeds will be absolutely huge for Scarf. So Kvalifar is full build, sitting with almost 4,000 gold in his pocket. He doesn't need any more gold. He literally has enough gold to infuse for the rest of this game. So we really need Tyra's to get to that same point where he can be infused at full build, and that's where Scarf is going to have the most benefit in these fights. This Kraken is getting taken low, and Dynasty is just now making it out, and just like that, we now have a counter push coming out of SK. They will march down the lane with this Kraken, and Scarf is so good at fighting alongside a Kraken. Level 12 infusion, Halcyon Chargers complete. This is SK's opportunity to close out game number 2.
Hashtag run SKG if you got any SK fans in chat. I know we got a couple hanging out here. Dynasty also representing as well. Can Dynasty defend and find the win here? Send us to game 3. Can SK close out? Dynasty trying to make the play. Mowgli send the gauntlets down. They have the Ordained Mowgli. He's going to go ahead and hit him without Holy Nova. The Tyrus forced back. Tyrus still quite healthy. Kraken marching forward. Denominate. I don't know what the play is. Mowgli's back in this. This feels like a desperate attempt from Dynasty. In fact, Fearsome Shade blocked off. Tyrus, he's burning him down with the Dragon's Breath. 9 broken myth stacks and get wrecked, Dynasty. SK running all over. Wow.
Again, and the later this game goes, the more clear it is that SK can win these fights. Scarf really having that level 12 infusion and boots was able to turn that fight around quickly. Mowgli went in a little too far, gave a few too many broken myth stacks over to Scarf, and that is game number 2 now, going over to SK, taking a clean sweep over the side of Dynasty Gaming.
You know, these teams do match up. When they both come out on a good day, they match up pretty evenly. SK had the edge here, and man, that is exciting stuff to see. SK elevating their level of play at the end of the season as we start thinking about the Unified Live Championship. SK was one of the teams in spring that was able to take a game off of Cloud9, lose the series, but they showed they had potential, and if they're continuing to get better, man, EU's got to be happy about that. So the Denominate, I mean, any final points here on this game for you? Any big determining factors?
I mean, realistically, SK just showed why they are up here at this number 2 seed, so that's all I really got to close out.
All right, well, a good game coming out here anyway. We'll go and throw it back over to our analyst desk, though. Go ahead and break this one down.
Thank you very much, guys. I got to agree. SK proving why they are the number 2 seed right now and potentially can move forward towards that number seed spot. We'll have to find that out tomorrow, though. Let's break that game down. I know it's going to be hard because that was an intense game, incredibly back and forth. And I mean, so many situations where there would be a team fight. There was a huge win for either team, and it felt like that was enough to tilt the balance. It felt like that would be enough to either take a huge, like take a significant lead, but it never quite was enough for either team until right at the very end there.
Yeah, it was such a good match. There was, big lead for Dynasty throughout the majority of this game. I felt like they had a lot of the momentum, and then there's one team fight where just a couple of mistakes were made.